this part is called Elijah's mantle. And at the top, John 8:32 says, and you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free. At the bottom, you actually see Elisha. You can tell Elisha by his bald head. And he is watching Elijah the prophet going up into heaven in a whirlwind, on chariots, in a chariot of fire with horses of fire. And the mantle of Elijah falls down and Elisha puts it on. So this all begins with Elisha asking for a double portion of Elijah's spirit in 2 Kings chapter 2, verse 1. In fact, there's a passage when 9 to 10. When they had crossed over, Elijah said to Elisha, ask what I shall do for you before I'm taken from you. And Elisha said, please, let a double portion of your spirit be upon me. Now that's the portion of the firstborn. The firstborn member of a family gets twice as much as the other siblings, so that he will be the head of the household and the pastor, as it were, and the good shepherd and the priest, and he'll help the others. Yes, so he's given twice as much, not as the favorite, but as the one responsible for carrying on the priest's role, the headship of the family. So that's what he wanted. Okay. And he wants his spiritual mentor to kind of, his teacher to pass on to him as his student, his apprentice, what he has. So Elijah replied, you have asked a hard thing. Nevertheless, if you see me when I am taken away from you, it shall be so for you. But if not, it shall not be so. All I know is if you see me going up, then you'll get the mantle. And Elisha does, because he perseveres. He insists on following Elijah across the Jordan and sticking to him until they're separated by the whirlwind and the chariot and horses of fire. So in 2 Kings chapter 2, verses 11 to 14, Elisha actually sees the chariot and horses of fire go up, and he sees Elijah going up, and he sees the mantle coming down. So the prophet's cloak of Elijah falls on him. He puts it on, so he is now the successor. And he uses it to smite the waters of the Jordan, as Elijah had done. He says, where is the Lord, the God of Elijah? And the river parts for him to walk across dry shod the way it did for Elijah. So he's got the spirit, he's got the authority. That's just an impression of the horses of fire. Now, so Elisha then becomes the prophet, and the spirit is upon him, the double portion. So when the Syrian army surrounds the city, a huge enemy army, his servant panics because they're trapped, absolutely trapped by an enemy army, a huge enemy army. But Elisha sees the great army of fire all around defending him. He sees the army of the Lord of hosts round about him. And he prayed for his frightened servant, Lord, open his eyes. And the man suddenly saw what Elisha could see. the horses and chariots of fire round about Elisha, the armies of the Lord of hosts, Yahweh Sabaoth. So suddenly, Elisha's servant, who had been spiritually blind, he sees the unseen forces of God, the army of the Lord, round about the prophet Elisha. And Elisha is extraordinary. Elisha prayed for temporary blindness to smite the Syrians, so that he ambushed the whole Syrian army single-handedly, and they followed him in a kind of daze into the capital city, into Samaria, in 2 Kings 6:20. When he got them all into the capital city, and they were trapped. So they trapped him, apparently, and then he trapped them. When they were inside the capital city, Samaria, he prayed again for their eyes to be opened, to understand where they were, to realize that, oh, we're in the middle of Samaria, we are completely trapped. Now, so that's Elijah leading them in, as it were, like blind men. On the left, you see the present day ruins of the city of Samaria. So the king of Israel found that the whole enemy army was there. He could have killed every single last one of them. So he didn't. He asked Elisha whether he should kill these. They were prisoners of war now. They were POWs. And Elisha said, no, don't kill them. Make a great feast for them instead, and set them free from the trap that they'd walked blindly into. So Elisha loves his enemies. He loved his enemies, and he showed them the gospel of God's grace to the Gentiles. So you see a wonderful prophecy, a foretaste, a dress rehearsal of God's grace to the Gentiles. And there you see the transfiguration in Matthew 17, 2-8. You see Jesus on the Mount of Transfiguration with Moses and Elijah, one on each side. And you see on the left, Peter, James, and John. And he was transfigured before them, and his face shone like the sun. His clothes became white as light. And there appeared to them, that is Peter, James, and John, saw Moses and Elijah talking with him. So Jesus is transfigured between two witnesses, and the two witnesses are the law and the prophets, Moses and Elijah. So that will lead us on to the matter of who are the two witnesses in the book of Revelation.